Welcome back to Closing Conversations, the show for founders, leaders, and sellers who win together. I'm your host, Max Notes. Today's guest is Erik Reynolds, and this episode is a little different. Before every recording, I usually do a quick intro call with the guest. It's not meant to be the episode. It's just a way to get to know each other and make the real conversation easier. But with Erik, the intro was too good to throw away. So we made it part one of a two-part episode. Erik has worked across video games, music, PR, film, television, esports, business development, and creative strategy. But this conversation goes beyond the resume. We talk about greed, divorce, music, hockey, founders, boundaries, and why some dreams belong in your eulogy, not just your CV. Let's get into it.
I'm in studio with one of the producers from Band of Horses' last album. So he's going to help me sound, maybe a couple steps better than I actually am, which is great.
That's great. What more do you need there?
Yeah, it's like, we all have these things that we put in our I want to do that at some point box, and then we forget about them, or we set them aside as like childhood dreams.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I never wanted to be a rock star. I just wanted to create musical art, and so I'm just doing all the things that, I'd like to have on my, set at my eulogy rather than on my CV at this point.
You're preaching to a choir here. And I don't know, I'll share with you. I'll be vulnerable here. So when I married the girl that I dated in college, right out of college, I felt like you should, whatever. And a year and a half in, I found out she was having an affair and divorce at 25 years old. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? I did everything right. I went to school and had good friends and graduated and got the job and got promoted. What the fuck? And it blew my life up. And fortunately, I've got amazing friends. I got amazing family, and I hit the gym and I hit therapy fucking hard. And it was cliche, but it was the best thing, honestly, that ever happened to me, because it gave me finally a pause in my life to say, who am I? What makes me happy? I haven't thought about that really ever. And, in the midst of this wild period of depression and relief and growth and everything, I picked up a guitar, as I think is also pretty cliche. And I lived in New York City, and I was walking around one day and I stumble upon this dive bar downtown, and I hear just a group of people singing. And you walk in, and lo and behold, this group gets together on the first Saturday of every month. Everyone's got the same Beatles chord book. And from 12 noon till 6 p.m., 6 hours of people just singing and playing the Beatles. And I worked at it, and I started playing with them and kind of became one of the leaders. Abby wrote up there and became one of the leaders of the group. And when I met my wife, who I'm married to, and we have 2 kids and a dog, I proposed at that Beatles bar. And I'd always wanted to play the guitar. I'd always wanted to play music. And I did saxophone as a kid and piano, but never for myself. And this was different. And then at our wedding, that's us singing, we surprised everyone and played Valerie by Amy Winehouse. And it was fucking amazing. And now I play the guitar, I play the piano. I just got a steel drum, a steel pan drum.
That's amazing.
And then going along with that, the don't wait till hockey is my favorite thing in the world. My dog's name is Gordie Howe. I fucking love hockey. And I played when I was a kid through high school. And then my parents, they're lovely, but they're intense. And they made me quit to study for the SATs. And that was such a piece of me that got pulled away and fucking killed me. And I thought about playing again, but it felt like I was embarrassed to go. It was just this awful thing. And then we move out to Connecticut from the city, and a buddy of mine says he's an Orthodox Jewish guy, and he was never allowed to play hockey growing up because it's just a strict culture. And he says, when I turned 18, I said, fuck it, it's my life. I want to play hockey. I've always wanted to. He calls me up and says, Max, there's a league I'm in and we could use an extra player. And I'm like, you know what? It's my time to reclaim my fucking thing. And we went to the store, dropped more money than we had on equipment. And now I play once a week in this fucking men's league. Games are at 10:30 at night. Every guy there has to have some form of ADHD and loves hockey. Otherwise, who the fuck is going out at 10:30 at night for these games? And it's God, I have all this shit right here. I swear this is not set up. My wife, for my birthday, we won a championship, and she printed out this big poster of me winning the cup. And it's just, it's
moments, man.
like you get one, as far as we're aware, you only get one, right? Like, so if you're not going to do it now, then just fucking do it. Like, you have to do these things. And there's a balance of like what we have to do and what we want to do, but I don't know. But man, good for you on recording that fucking album.
You know, life is like how you described it coming out of college. We feel like life is like we're sitting in an inner tube and we're going down a river and we don't really have much course correction, you know, going down that river. But in actuality, life is like more like a intercoastal waterway with a series of locks and dams. And learning how to open up and slow down and open up that lock and close it behind you and move on from that part of the river onto the next part of the river, and coming up on a dam and realizing you're going to have to go back and maybe take a few steps back to find a new way. You know, that's my cliche analogy for life. And it's one where things happen to us, hence the river kind of analogy, right? Or the metaphor. So we are kind of on a set path or a set structure, but there are multiple paths in that structure. And it changes who we are. Like, imagine you never found out. Would you have found the healing power of music and community, and that changed you?
Oh my God. I think about it all the time. How depressing it would have been. What, like, this is the life that this is just it.
And, you know, if you hadn't, well, actually, if your friend hadn't said, you know what, I love my culture, but I need to experience the things that I want to experience, that is out of your control. But that's one of those paths that says, hey, I don't want to do this alone. Or, hey, we got an opening, we have an extra, we need someone. And that's another path, man. And all that is part of like this journey of a life that really is about experiences, not accumulation of things, you know?
Do you watch the show Shrinking by any chance?
But I know what it is. I know what it is.
Fucking good. It's so fucking good.
I love the actors. I forget both of their names right now. Indiana Jones and Jason Rubin.
Yeah,
no, not Rubin.
So I'm not going to give away too much, but one of the, main themes, you see this in episode 1, is this guy, Jason Segel's wife died, and he's a therapist. And and so this was last night's episode, and Harrison Ford says something, and I promise I'm not giving anything away, but it was so beautiful. And he says, like, listen, like, you're scarred, and like, you're full of scars. You're 42 years old. You got a shit ton of scars. And like, what a blessing that is, because that's the sign of a life well lived. And like, your ex, you're never going to forget her, but it's now time to go out and get new scars. Like your scars are there, but like, letting go of the past doesn't mean that you don't have them. It means not letting them dictate who you are and what you're going to do. Like, letting that be in the past. And so go out and get more. And I thought it was just so fucking awesome what it said. I've been thinking about it all day.
Yeah. Full scars make for good stories. By the way, already, I love this philosophical conversation we just got on.
It's so funny. I have these conversations with like founders, leaders, salespeople, and you'd be blown away the amount of them that just become these like heavy life conversations, because, we all have our LinkedIn speak. We all have like what we do in the day, but like, this is what it's for and what keeps us. It's just, that's the real of all of it.
I try to be exactly like this on LinkedIn because, as someone who's been in PR for 25 years, I just realized like corporate speak is just dead. It's just like soulless, it's inauthentic. And it's why like influencers are just eating their lunch as far as like actually commanding the attention spans of others. But I try to bring this into LinkedIn because I still have a strong corporate narrative of my career, leading comms for basically most of the major video game companies of the world. And then I try to get really authentic with it because I made a conscious choice to leave corporate because I saw consolidation happening. It's like one of those things when you check in with your analysis brain, you're like, oh, dude, everybody's going to get laid off soon. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to start building companies and they're going to fail. And that's going to be the best MBA I'm ever going to have. And I Joined one company that won TechCrunch Disrupt, and that was fun. I joined another company that was the fastest growing company in America and on the cover of Inc. magazine, and I saw them implode because of how they were run. So I was like, these guys can do it. Okay, now it's time for me to start my companies. And I started a film and TV production company, and I sold two TV shows and a movie in a year, and then COVID happened. So that got wound down. I started an esports television network that was profitable in its first year, outlasted other networks that had 25 million in funding, and I had 200,000 in funding, and then wound that down because programmatic advertising just isn't that lucrative yet unless you have billions of eyeballs. And then now I co-own a video game studio, and my consulting, I run my consulting not just as like a services business, but also as like a business development opportunity where I'm making joint ventures with Sony Music to make video games for their artists, and, working with financiers and so forth to acquire IP and, see what I can do with it. And then I consult as a PR guy to everything from the Professional Grappling Federation, which is a professional jiu-jitsu league, to working with Slipknot, Five Finger Death Punch, and making video games and being a nerd and making stuff.
That's a legit path. And it's honestly, it's like a lot of, it sounds like stuff that you like.
It's stuff that you know what? It's like, there is no work-life balance when you're a founder. People don't understand, like, when you like the stuff you do, you can still spend time with your family and friends and then just get stuff done at night, get stuff done early in the morning. And it's not, kind of hustle speak that it was on LinkedIn for so long. And I just am committed to my multiple passions. They're all, art and tech related.
Let me tell you, I want to share mine because I feel like we have a lot just in the core that's very similar, and
I agree.
I imagine then as you tell me your path, it kind of reminds me of mine, even if it's a little different, on paper. So I didn't know what I wanted to do out of college, but I knew I wanted to make money. My dad was really successful. So I had a zillion internships during college. I couldn't even fit them on my resume when I graduated. And I'm like, fuck, I could have had a way better freshman summer. Like, what a metaphor. And then I got a job at this company called Yext, Y-E-X-T, tech company in New York City. And you had to make 40 deals in 40 days or you were fired. Like, that's how their program worked. And I was hell bent. There's no fucking way I'm not going to make this. I told everyone I got a job. I have too much of an ego. I'm not telling people that I didn't keep that job. And I had very little support through. Like, the manager was his first day, was my first day. And he was insecure. Like, I'm just being honest. I know the guy. He was insecure about what he knew and his standing in the company. And if you asked a question, you never got a real answer. And you realize I'm on my own. Like, I'm going to use sink or swim. And as a result, 25% of people actually made it through this program. It was bloody chopping board. And then I wanted a promotion. I made it clear. I got promoted really young to manage this whole farm system of every month we're bringing on 8 people, onboarding for a week, 40 deals in 40 days, and you're firing those who don't make it and you're keeping those who do it. But I knew what I needed in that role. And I knew what I wish I had. A sympathy, honesty, like someone just telling me you're doing well or you're not doing well. What do I need to do well if I'm not doing? Like, what do I need to change? And I put my heart and soul into it. And over the course of like 3 years, that program, and like my first training class, the percentage that made it through was 75%. Like, holy shit. And we really had to find things out. And what a difference it made having someone in your back, on your back, helping you out. It changed the whole company, the amount of people that we were able to bring in, the revenue they were able to drive, the culture. Oh my God. And then Yext went public, which is what a fucking cool thing. How exciting. The company succeeded. And I trained then teams around the country for Yext. I went to a bunch of startups and saw them all go from founder-led sales to then it's time to build a team, and they would fail. And I sometimes was the salesperson at this company, and I'm like, hey, I'm here. And they're like, great, take your laptop, welcome aboard, go have at it. And I'm like, but I don't know anything. And then 6 months later, everybody's getting fired. There's a crisis, and this is every single company. So 2 years ago, my wife and I had a conversation and decided, you know what? I'm so sick of being at the mercy of these organizations that don't know what they're doing. I know if I were in that leader's seat, it wouldn't have been this way. And we decided, you know what, Max, go ahead and start your own company, which is co-mission. And the whole thing we do is go into startups and help them build out their team the right way, coach their people, listen to calls, give feedback, and it makes a huge difference with the companies we're working with. And, similarly, as you're saying, like as a founder, there's so much fucking pressure. And it's something that I
Mhm.
knew there would be, but I didn't know there would be. I didn't know what that meant. And it's been so critical to when I'm working, I'm working. When I'm not working, I'm not working. We have two kids that are almost 3 and almost 1. And like, I can
Yeah.
so see a world
Yeah.
where I miss, and I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah.
And I know that when I'm working, I work harder than anybody. And when I'm not working, it's off. Like it has to be. And, I was talking to a friend at a wedding who started his own law firm. He goes, "Oh, so you're working like nights, weekends, et cetera?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I kind of refuse to do that." And like, I'm happy with where the company has gone in these 2 years. And I'm constantly fearful of what's next or what isn't next, or constantly like it's a brutal existence, but there has to be this separation because again, this is what matters. And this is a means to make that happen.
A lot of people don't realize that the real life stuff is the fuel that you bring into your work life to work harder, to find
Yeah.
new ideas, to create new products. That's what got lost in the boomer generation, the
Uh-huh.
transition from you knew you had a lifelong job to startup culture, which is you might get rich quick or whatever, but you also might get laid off after 20 days because the founder didn't actually raise the money he or she said they did. When a founder immediately asks you to start like committing your life to the culture of the company, that's when sort of red flags fly after me because good leaders should inspire, not demand. Like they should be able to do the work that they're asking you to do. And at the same time, you should want to like work harder, but make that decision on your own. And when you do have your vacation or do have your nights to your family, you're coming back into work. It's not about being refreshed. It's like it's a reset. You're not carrying like yesterday's numbers into today as hard as you would if you didn't let it go over the night.
I really like that because, and I have this too, where I'll come back from a weekend or a vacation and I'm like, fuck, I'm more tired than I was before I left. But
Yep, because you're thinking
right,
about all the
it's
things you
that.
didn't get done.
Well, not only that, but it's, I'm with the kids.
Oh, yeah,
I
too.
had such a great time on vacation. We flew back home yesterday and like I'm going away next week and I'm going with my whole family. We're going to Asia. And, I know when I get back, I'm gonna be fucking tired and jet lagged, but it's healthy to not
Yeah,
be in work
yeah.
brain mode for a little bit. It's a reset, or at least it's an opportunity to.
And you're going to see something about something, no matter where the country you're going, that makes you think differently about something that you're doing here. Like I think Ford started integrating, was it Kaizen or something like that? I'm forgetting what the actual thing was, but it was sort of like this Japanese philosophy on like breaking things down into little pieces so that big jobs become more manageable. I may
Uh-huh.
be misquoting this exact thing, but there are true examples of the thing that I'm desperately reaching for.
I dig it. I used to say, I'm not going to take off the week between Christmas and New Year's because there's nothing going on anyway. So I don't want to use my vacation. But then I'm not totally working, but I'm also not totally not working because I hear that
Yeah.
Slack go off and then everyone comes back having reset, as you're saying, and I didn't. And
Yeah.
it's like I've been awake all night and everybody got a good night of sleep.
Yeah. And always being on call is something new to these last two generations of workers that previous generation of workers just never had to deal with. Like having a company phone or having your company demanding access to your phone number, having
Yeah.
company email. I remember when that first started where you could say, no, you can't have my phone number, or no, I only use my phone for personal use. I remember when that was okay at the very beginning. And then a year later, everybody's like, no, you need to get an email at 8 o'clock on the Tuesday, and we're all moving towards a phone culture. You better have that email on your phone. And that is not for everyone, yet it is unfortunately become everyone's sort of reality.
I thought it was interesting what you said about how boomer culture, it's work as hard as you can, work, 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 but your company's there. Like that is a huge stability in your
Yeah.
life, in your being that, well, now if it's work, 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 and your company might not be there, whoa, like going with the phone, I talk to my dad sometimes because he's a doctor and he started his own practice. And, there's some stuff that we can really relate about when we're talking. When he bought the practice, he and my mom looked at the bank account, there was $6 in the bank account. And like, yeah, that is fucking scary. That is a lot. But I'll say that, but where we disconnect is, I work from home and my kids go to school 10 minutes from here. So when work is done, I have 10 minutes to reset before I'm in dad mode. And that's a lot and it's stressful. My dad had a big commute and he could just kind of wring it out on the way home. Or when he got home, if he had some work to do, he'd do it, with a glass of wine. My computer is here. It's like I'm living in my office. It's a different stress. Or like he had a business model that has been tried and true. Just execute on that, execute while you're there. Then when you're home, you're home. I'm kind of like in a bit of a different, this is all new. I'm always working and it's hard to compare the two. And I think that's probably that's caused like a little friction between the generations. There's a lack of understanding, communication, life. I don't know.
I think that previous generations think that we rely on technology too much and technology makes all things easy. And they tend to forget that they call us for every little thing that goes wrong with their phones, right? There's the analogy for like, no, technology doesn't make everything easy. It makes me always accessible. Like I have clients that are like, you should join our work Slack. And I'm like, no, I am being contracted for a very specific job. If it's an emergency, text me. But if you have a question that can be answered tomorrow, then wait. Like, it's different depending on the contract and the work. If I'm in crisis communications, I'm available all the time for everything. I'm cleaning up messes that are happening in the middle of the night. I'm working with lawyers to make sure that we are human, yet responsible, yet not too responsible. There are other gigs, which is like working with the PGF, which I'm like, I'm just working on a press release, guys. Like, I'll get it out this week. The season's over anyway. No one's really like dying for this news right now. This is just for AI SEO, but it's going to give us something to, show advertisers. And I'm going to start working on acquiring new broadcasters.
Well, you're at a point in your career or just in your own instability that you can. A lot of folks, they feel beholden to everything. And I don't know. I think like, I'll tell you in my world, I feel like I'm balancing a mix of what I know is real and right and what was pumped into my fucking head my whole life,
Yeah. And both are true. Just so you know, they are true through different lenses and at different moments in your life and at different, I would say, experiences in your work life. Like, boomer dads are like, get a job, keep a job, because stability was everything. As long as, especially for middle class and lower middle class, it was like, we just need a paycheck coming in every 2 weeks. You smile at that boss that you think is shitty, right? Whereas my grandfather worked as an airline mechanic for American Airlines and came back from World War II and adopted the idea that he's not going to take anyone's shit because he survived a war. While at the same time, he was still like, I still need this job though. But he knocked out a few people on the line. Let's just say that. Just knock him right out. Like, don't fuck with me. Leave me alone.
Well, that's like what you're saying. Both can be true.
And at least back in those days, HR was like, well, did he fuck with you? Okay. Well,
did he fuck with you?
Just don't punch him in the face next time. Maybe just give him a gut punch and remind him that you don't take shit. I try to keep the full scope of the old ways and the new ways in my mind because they're all true, just in different slices of sort of today's reality. Today's reality, I'm talking on a video conference call with someone who is an expert in sales. And no matter what, I know immediately we can connect on a human level because that's what salespeople do. We're okay with that. We're just like, and I don't do direct sales. I sometimes do indirect sales. I broker deals. But like for us, it's like, okay, this is the new normal. It's like you can meet someone you've never known. And there's not really I've got to know if Bob goes in the same country club, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's really none of that because we come from the internet generation. We have the same frame of reference on a lot of things. Is that like a Florida State Indian or is that a Washington Redskins Indian up there?
Oh, this?
No, that's the Blackhawks, isn't it?
That's the Blackhawks, yeah.
Okay, yeah, all right. For some reason, I was like, I thought that was the old logo for the Redskins, but no, that's a Blackhawks. Okay, got it.
No, that's Bobby Hull, Mario Lemieux, Mark Messier, and the first goal that I scored when I came back to hockey.
I've never been a huge hockey fan, but I'll always say yes to going to a game because it's freaking amazing. Because I just didn't grow up in hockey towns, but I'm a sports fan, and instantly I semi like you're a music fan, you get drawn to the things behind me. I'm like, I knew that was Abbey Road, right? That sidewalk is implanted in all of our minds. But yeah, man, like I'm not a philosopher because I'm someone in communications and in persuasion. My job is to get people to do shit for free, basically, right? And also to create businesses that speak to niche and, perceived niche audiences, right? I'm the co-owner of a majority Black-owned video game developer, and we're making video games for the niche 670 million Black gamers around the world. Nobody's ever done that because the games industry, because I've been in those boardrooms, are like scared to talk about race. I was 50 Cent's publicist for like 2 years. You can't be around people who made their living selling crack and be scared to talk about race and scared to talk about culture while at the same time not trying to mimic it and just being authentic. And I took those learnings, and 50 Cent's one of the best business people I ever worked with, and I brought them into my own desire to build a company with an Uber driver. An Uber driver pitched me a video game one night, not knowing who I was. And 4 years later, we've been in business for 3 years. And because it was an Afrofuturistic game, RPG, which is a wide genre, but a world that no gamer's ever seen before, at a scale that no gamer's ever seen before. And he's a technical founder, and we have an unfair advantage of having subject matter experts and developers in Ghana and Nigeria. So our development costs are cheaper. And so I got us representation from CAA and just said, all right, let's shop this to the industry and let's see how it looks. And so far, Xbox is interested and 4 other publishers are interested. We just got to get to that next demo. So I'm in fundraising mode.
If you're in fundraising mode, you're in sales.
Yeah. And this is the part of sales that I need to better educate myself on, which is better understanding the various series. Like generally everybody knows what an angel round is, what a pre-seed round is, what a seed round is, what an A round is, a B round is, right? All they are is just different scales of funding and different issues of shares. And they're indicative of traction or not traction, revenue or not revenue, product or pre-product. When I first started doing this kind of stuff, I thought I knew more about it than I did. And I quickly realized I'm jumping from angel to Series A and I don't have any traction. Of course, I'm going to get a no. And the traction that I do show isn't the traction that people are looking for, which sometimes is unfair because like investors don't always understand that getting included in a major media showcase with PC Gamer is a freaking crown jewel achievement for a company that's never existed before. And going to conventions, majority of, minority gamers, and being the only game that looks entirely like them and having them come up to you and just freak out. And you're like, oh, wait, I'm actually creating a game that has an emotional connection to my audience without getting into the story yet, just by existing me one. So these are the process that I'm in now, which is just like managing a lot of different things so I could reinvest back into my passion project company.
Good luck. I didn't mean that in a sarcastic way. But
no, but it was perfect, because it was like, good luck, buddy.
That's a fucking lot, man.
It is, but like, I assume you're an ADD brother too. Like, I wouldn't be happy unless I was doing 5 things at once.
That's so funny. I can still go. Great thing for the divorce, I still go to therapy. I fucking love therapy. I've talked to my therapist about like, God, like I can't wait to retire. And she's like, well, what would you do if you retired? And I'm like, well, it sounds fun to just like lay down and fucking watch TV all day. But I know that gets boring. I had back surgery and I remember like, I can't wait to get up. Okay, what would you do? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'd like do something in like local town politics, like building baseball parks and that kind of stuff. And she's like, that you would treat that just like what you're treating now.
like that you would put the same pressure on yourself.
Yep.
And I'm like, I am what I am, what I am.
For an artist, you never retire. You're just constantly creating. Whether or not your work is commercial or whether or not you want to do the steps that make it commercial is the only thing that is, up for conversation. No matter what kind of work we do, I feel like that is the same. Like business to me is art because I work in the business of art. So I get to talk about scripts and I get to talk about, visuals and music and da, 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 da. So I don't feel like I'm working. And, I got to tell you, when COVID happened, it taught the world that people can work responsibly from home. It was the greatest thing that ever happened to me because I've been working from home as a consultant for a couple of years prior to that. And all of these jobs that normally would have been like, Eric, we want you to come into the office, even as a consultant 3 days a week, it'd be soul crushing to me. Like I do my best work because I can not stress out about context switching from one client to the next and worry about someone looking over my shoulder and seeing that I'm doing something else. Whereas, like in some companies, when I was working for like a public relations firm, if you didn't have only one client, we mostly only had one client because we were one of the biggest 3 public relations firms in the country. Mine was Nintendo. But let's say I was like researching some music thing because it related to the soundtrack of the Nintendo game, or actually more specifically, Alicia Keys, before she got big, her company reached out to me because I was a music journalist and was like, Alicia loves Nintendo. Do you think they'd sponsor us? And I'm like, no, but I'm going to fight for that.
Yeah.
And I listened to her music and I was like, this person's huge. I already know this.
Yeah.
I brought Alicia Keys to Nintendo in 1999 and they passed because they weren't into experiential marketing at that time. And then 1 year later, she won like 3 Grammys.
Yep.
And I got an email from my client, the most senior client at Nintendo. And she was like, you know what? It was the right choice, but in retrospect, it was just the wrong time, And I was like, that to me is why I'm still in contact with all my original clients. Because like, they know that I can see things that other people don't see.
So I got to tell you, Eric, I hate to do this. I have to run through another meeting. I have 2 thoughts. Normally I give like a whole spiel on the podcast, but so real quick, I'm recording this. I'll send you a link to like properly record the episode. I swear this conversation could have been an episode in itself. But I think this could be like, I swear to God, like a 2-parter where I say, you know what, we don't normally do this, but he and I had such a great intro that I just want to put that out there for people.
I'm very cool with that, Max. And everything that I said, even about the opening about like, coming from my brother's funeral, that is for the pod.
Dude, this is unbelievable. Can I tell you, Eric, I swear to God, if I were there, I'd be giving you a big hug right now. Like, I'm so happy that we met.
The next time I'm up in New York, I'll hit you up for that hug.
You fucking better. You fucking better. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. You better. I'll see you soon, man.
Peace, brother.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Closing Conversation. Huge thanks to Erik Reynolds for turning what was supposed to be an intro call into a real conversation. What stuck with me most is this: the real parts of your life are not distractions from the work. They're the fuel for it. You can get scarred. You rebuild. You find things that bring you back to yourself. And if you're building something, that matters. If you liked this episode, subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who needs to stop waiting and start doing the thing. And if you're building a sales team that needs stronger coaching, sharper systems, and a more human way to grow, head over to www.commissionsales.com. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, you can always catch us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for more episodes of Closing Conversations.